Vampires. Now, they've been around for over 100 years. And they've been on iconic, from books to movies to whatever else. Vampires are very iconic. From them being from being beast of the night that look human but aren't actually, that have drained, that suck on human blood. They are saying vampires are iconic, quite literally is very much a common statement. But also, vampires are not just in horror media, but in all kinds of media. They have been vampires exist in the Marvel Universe. The same universe with Spider-Man and Captain America has vampires. I am not making that up. But yeah, to weird romantic movies, to randomly off to being life of centuries, and I have some questions and always randomly having been on. I saw a picture of a vampire, and he was on the side of the Confederacy. I have several questions, because vampires usually are depicted which some knows that I have several questions. But vampires are probably some of the most iconic monsters ever made, especially when how well known they are, and to the most iconic of vampires, Count Dracula, and he's also been around for just as much as vampires are. Vampires aren't really a creation of Abraham Schramm when he made Dracula, but they're very much, most ideas of vampires usually date back to either a Greek legend, or if we're talking about modern day ones, just date back to Dracula, or as being one of the most recognizable vampires on the planet. Seeing that in Dracula, just as much as many vampires have been played by multiple actors. But this is Indiana Jones YouTube channel, and you may be asking, why am I making a video about vampires on Indiana Jones YouTube channel? Well, vampires exist in the Indiana Jones universe. In the Indiana Jones universe, vampires are real. I am not making this up. Which in this world includes Abrahamic origins, all three of the Abrahamic origins being somewhat true. Now again, Santa Claus also exists. Yes, Santa Claus also exists in this world. The zombies, the Legend of Atlantis, and witches, Morin, and whatever else. I am not making this stuff up. Indiana Jones' world is basically if there was just a normal guy who ended up in a supernatural episode. That's it. More times than I think about it, Indiana Jones is just in one weird supernatural episode, but he just finds the things that Sam and Dean should usually have, and Sam and Dean just don't show up. So yes, vampires exist in the world of Indiana Jones. So, which also is the same world where the federal government has the Ark of the Covenant, where the United States federal government has the Ark of the Covenant. We should not be worried about that at all. But But what do the vampires show up and do in what part of India media? Well, two things. And one of them is another thing that I haven't read, but I don't really care enough about it. So, and I don't even think it might be canon. But Indiana Jones. But, so Indiana Jones has fought vampires before. So, that's considering what types of vampires there are. And where did they show up in any part of the Indy franchise? Now, vampires showed up in one of the episodes of Young Indiana Jones, and it also showed up in the Indiana Jones Find Your Fate adventure book from the 80s. Now, I don't think this is canon. I haven't read it, but I will go into detail later. Now, vampires in the indie world are very much basically the same as normal vampires. Like, there's no difference. So, yeah. And who's the vampire he fights? Count Dracula, or Vlad the Impaler. Vlad the Impaler was a generally real person, and in this world, he's generally a vampire. Witting how he used to impale his enemies and generally had multiple dark things going on. Yeah. And in this world, he kind of wants to turn everybody into a vampire, including Indiana Jones. Now he fails because he's not the main character, and Indiana Jones succeeds to stop him. But Vlad the Impaler, and this was also the inspiration behind Dracula. And Vlad the Impaler was a real person. Vlad the Impaler was very much a real person, and very much, I think, a king, and he's the inspiration behind Dracula. Because Vlad the Impaler, by his name, impaled his victims and his enemies on some most horrific, and he did a lot of horrific things to people who didn't like him, or who he didn't like. Yeah. Very much going with the Dracula comparison. So, he would later inspire Dracula, the vampire we all know. And I think Indy just fought Dracula normally in one of the Choose Your Own Adventure books from the 80s with Indiana Jones. Now, I haven't read this because it's a book from the 80s and I barely get into normal indie media. But, yeah, and I don't think this be canon because it's a Find Your Own Adventure book. And what are the differences between vampires in the indie world and most adaptations of vampires? Well, they're basically the same. The only difference is, I would say, vampires, I don't think look as pale. That's the main difference. And they might. And they may be the reason why World War I starts. Because I remember this weird part in the episode. Now, I could be misremembering things as well. But the Imperial said, I have orchestrated everything over the last hundreds of years. Or something along those lines. And I'm like, does that mean he starts World War I in this universe? And that's more of a maybe. But and if so, what would be the point? Why would he start World War I in a world where, so that vampires can all come alive, wouldn't how millions are dead because of it? Now again, I could be misremembering things because he said that he planned everything for hundreds of years, and that could just mean, and either he did, and I could be misremembering something he said. But I could see, that's a weird way for World War I. Now again, see you next time, adventurers, and God bless.